Hi, I'm Doug Draper with Acme Distribution and the Denver Transportation Club, and I'm pleased to present a 10-part series, Supply Chain Logistics, the Storytellers. The series is brought to you by CAP Logistics. The CAP Logistics experts offer you customized transportation solutions for all of your needs. Please visit CAP Logistics at caplogistics.com. So today's topic is why should you use a 3PL as you're developing your business? And our expert today is a friend of mine, Tyler Walton, who's with 5 Logistics. He's the founder and president of the organization. So Tyler, thanks so much for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So before we jump into our topic for the day, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got in the industry, and we'll just kind of go from there.
I've been in transportation in one form or the other for the last 20 years. We started 5 Logistics in 2012 as a family-run 3PL, focusing on complex fulfillment for B2B and B2C business out of here in Denver, Colorado.
Nice. Tell us about the name. I know there's kind of an interesting backstory with where you came up with 5 Logistics.
5 Logistics is really built with my wife and 3 kids and myself. That's where 5 comes from. We're a family-run business. We wanted to, as we developed and built 5 from the ground up, we wanted it to be unique and different, and it took everybody involved in the family to be a part of it for it to be successful, and so we've got 5 as our name.
That's terrific. That's a good story. So one thing we want to get into is kind of the spirit of Colorado. People live here for many, many reasons, the weather and the activities. But one thing that you and I have discovered being here for quite a while is the entrepreneurial spirit that exists here in Colorado, not only in products and food and the outdoor industry and all kinds of interesting things. So it's a very vibrant, exciting part of the country to live in. And what that does is it brings a lot of new products and phenomenal ideas and kind of cutting edge concepts to the market, which whenever you decide to work and how you're going to make that happen with the supply chain and get your business off the ground, a 3PL can really be advantageous for you. So I think you and I spoke a little bit about what I would call TTM, time, trouble, and money, maybe a script for us to follow today as we walk through why you should select or at least look at a 3PL as an option. So let's start with time. That's a good way to get things started. So whenever you say time and a 3PL and a potential engagement, talk a little bit more about that.
Well, most business creators that I speak to, especially those that have a product that they're bringing to the marketplace, they spend most of their time getting the product developed and built and a plan. They spend very little time figuring out, once I get it here, first off, how do I get it here? What are the things that are important to think about from a cost standpoint? And then when it's here, how do I manage it? How do I get it to my clients? How do I get it to my customers? What are the ways that I want to sell it? And each of those avenues, whether it's bringing it in and importing and understanding duties, or getting it into retailers or online for sales to be purchased through an Amazon or your own website, being able to put all those pieces together ends up taking a lot more time than most business owners planned on. Right. More time than they want to spend developing and trying to be an expert in an area that is fairly difficult and takes a lot of time. They don't realize it and don't plan on it and find themselves struggling to get everything done on the timeline that they wanted to follow. Yeah.
Whenever you have a passion for anything, sometimes looking at taking a moment to stop and look at the implementation and what does this really mean can be overlooked pretty often.
Well, there's critical parts. They say I have this product and it has this type of a cost, and I want to sell it for for this dollar amount, and then they start to add in all of the costs. And if you look at transportation, there's various ways to import if your product is being built either in the U.S. or internationally. You've got to import it, so you have either ocean costs that is more of a slower mode of transportation, or you have air freight. Those costs are very different between ocean and air freight. And then you have understanding duty and the cost that it might take to get it into and cleared into the U.S. Some items have no duty cost, and that's great. Others have percentages in the 35% to bring it in, which is a substantial cost. Sure. That you've got to add into your overall cost for product and understanding what your profitability looks like. Yeah.
The landed cost is a term that I've heard before, that hey, I want to retail it for $20, but trying to get it here just into the warehouse, let alone the final mile delivery, could be substantial, 25-30% of that cost. I know from some experiences in my life that new startups oftentimes are new, right? The government's like, what are you doing? What's this new apparel garment or this cool device you wear? Sometimes there's even additional delays with the U.S. government stopping things and doing some inspections. Do you see that startups and new businesses are kind of stopped at the border, or have more checks and balances than ongoing importers?
I think it's a part of the overall challenge of importing for the first time. Working with a manufacturer and understanding all of the steps in the process of getting something imported, going from the manufacturer to the agent who's going to ensure that it gets on a steamship and in a container, and then when it lands, that it gets cleared and is customs cleared, and then gets to the warehouse or the home or the business where it is being delivered to. All those tend to take a lot longer in time than anyone wants, because they're so excited for their product to get here. They're wanting to have it now. Sure. They're wanting to be able to sell it now, and sometimes those delays can be very painful and sometimes very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So let's break down the time frame kind of in general terms, right? So somebody who makes let's just say a glove, right, that they're going to be using because ski season's coming up, and let's use that as an example. So let's say it's ready to go on January 1st, right? So in your experiences, how long does it take to get from the factory, let's just say it's a traditional port in China, to on the boat to get it here, the transit time, the customs clearances to get it here to Colorado to be put in a warehouse? Is that a week? Is it 6 months? Talk a little bit about that time frame.
So I think there's 3 different time frames that are important to look at. Mm-hmm. If you are bringing product in for the first time, it's probably not in a massive quantity or consuming a large amount of space. Mm-hmm. So obviously fastest is going to be air freight, and air freight typically is 4 to 5 times more expensive than ocean, and there's 2 ocean options. Okay. But air freight, you can find it as quick as 5 days. Planning on 5 to 7 days is really a good number to work with. Then when you're looking at ocean, there's a couple different options for ocean. There's full container. Right. You can utilize a 20-foot container, a 40-foot container. They even go a little bigger than that. And coming from let's use China, since we're manufacturing ski gloves. Okay. Coming from China, you're probably 21 days from the port of China into Los Angeles, and another 4 to 5 days to get it railed from the port to Denver. So I tell my clients, when they're buying a full container and managing their goods within that, it's about a month's time for them to plan on everything, with all of the bookings and the challenges that come in utilizing a whole lot of different companies to get a product from here to there. Yeah.
So from design and even taking a step back, If it takes a month, 60 days to get the product developed, you're 3 months out with development and having it physically where you can touch it and it's in a warehouse.
And then there's the other one, and it's called LCL. It's less than container. So your initial order might only be a few pallets of product. You can buy space along with other companies to fill a container. That means and adds a little additional work because it has to go to a warehouse to be staged and put into a container with other clients' products. And then you have the same when it gets here to the U.S. It's got to be unloaded and then it can be shipped. So, for smaller inventory quantities, you're looking at an additional 1 to 2 weeks on top of the 30 days for ocean. So if you're 60-day manufacturing, I tell them 45 days to plan on it getting from where from the manufacturer when he's done all the way to the warehouse and ready to start fulfilling orders for him.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes you just don't stop and kind of add up all of the time frames that are involved. So talking about that time, so 45 days for an LCL shipment, since a lot of the companies that we're discussing today would be startup and very entrepreneurial. So let's just say that they're going to have a less than container quantity. What are some troubles? Let's kind of jump to the trouble aspect of the time, trouble, and money. What are some of the challenges or potential delays where that 45-day window could be extended, and whether that's at origin or a deconsolidation point in California or here in the U.S. So troubles, let's kind of shift gears and talk about some of the troubles related to the import process.
So I think what's important for people to realize is when they do an LCL shipment, their product is placed with other companies' products. And when a container or a product is cleared to be imported through customs, if somebody else's product on that container is flagged for inspection, the whole container's flagged for inspection.
Oh, okay.
And so there are some challenges that come in getting product from here to there, from importing from China into the U.S. that people just don't think about. So I think it's important to utilize professionals. You have freight forwarding, you have customs clearance, you have trucking, you have the ocean. You can utilize an expert to help you oversee all of that, manage that, and really help you set expectations and understand all of the costs to get your product here. To me, that's absolutely a way to avoid trouble when you're looking at managing the importing process of your product.
Sure. So being a renegade and say, I can take care of all this myself and I'll fill the forms out so I can do it, may not be the best decision, because if you run into those troubles, you don't have an advocate. You don't have somebody out there to advocate for your business. That's pretty much what you're saying with the professional aspect.
It is important that you recognize that you want to try and do as much as you can and understand it, but really utilizing a professional freight forwarder or 3PL is highly recommended in making sure that your product gets from where it's created to where it is going to be fulfilled from. It's important.
Nice. That's great. So, it's amazing to me that if you're in an LCL environment, you're in an ocean container, there's 5 other customers that are in there with you. They may have no relation to your products. You could be doing gloves, somebody else could be doing water bottles or whatever. If they get flagged, you're part of the process and you don't really have control over that. That's kind of what you were saying, that it could potentially happen.
It's a delay, and delays are expensive, and then you've got to talk to people that buyers that may be expecting it. If you're a seasonal product, you're bumping up against deadlines where people want it in store and they want it shipped, and they want to know what's going on, and you're a new product, so you're trying to manage getting things done as quick as possible. But I think the trouble is it carries all the way through. You have that risk, and then when it finally gets to the fulfillment house or to the warehouse where it's being stored, the challenges don't end. Ensuring that you are working with somebody that understands the the requirements to get product to retailers, to understand routing guides, to know how to populate the advanced shipping notices. The next big challenge that I think is important and why I would use an expert is really inventory management.
Yeah.
And ensuring that your inventory as it comes in is able to be counted and accounted correctly.
Right.
For the years that I've done this, I've heard countless times, well, handling product is easy. You get an order, you go get it, you slap some labels on it, and you ship it.
Right.
What people don't understand is there's a lot more moving pieces and parts. You have returns coming in. You have projects where one of your retailers will say, well, I'd really like that to be bundled with this item, or I'd like you to make this small change. And being able to adapt and fulfill those requests as they come in as you're trying to build your business is changing your inventory on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And being able to have somebody that is managing it and telling you how much you have and making sure that you've got enough, or when to order your next batch is important. I think inventory management is something that is thought to be very easy, but in all reality, it's a very challenging part of the business.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So the time and trouble we've kind of spoken about, and then the money aspect, I want to jump into that. And I think really we could talk about it, not what does it cost to make this item. That's really not what we're here to talk about. It's the cost of, now it's in the U.S., now it's in a warehouse, and it's in Colorado. What are the cost structures that we need to look at to say, I can do that cheaper myself because I got a buddy and we'll bring some pizzas and we'll do some shipping, from my garage. But as a startup, there's indirect costs that you need to look at. So when you're analyzing, do I use a 3PL and outsource, or do I keep it in-house and in-source? Money is a huge one to look at. So talk a little bit about some of those maybe indirect or direct financial implications of using a third party and outsourcing.
Well, I think it's important that you look at where your product's going to be sold. Is it a online product? Is it going to be sold through multiple channels online? Are you selling it in a wholesale basis where retailers are going to be selling it? Each of those areas and channels have their own challenges. If you're using a retailer, you have to learn routing guides and be able to make sure that you're shipping. One of the largest pains that I know young companies have is chargebacks that come from retailers. From not doing things timely enough or correctly or putting the right labels on. So it's important that you are able to work with somebody that has kind of been through that,
right,
and understands that. So to me, utilizing a 3PL from a costing standpoint will have not only the expertise and the experience in being able to get your product to where it needs to, but the systems that run it.
Right.
You have inventory management. You're selling in several different channels. Today, you can't just put your product online and have it be successful. It needs to be on Amazon. It needs to be on your own shopping cart. You might have it in stores. And making sure that all these channels have enough product or know how much product they have so you don't run into back orders,
right,
is another way to have a challenge on time and money for sure.
Yeah. I've been in situations where you get super excited. My gloves are now being available on Amazon, and I got this huge purchase order, and I'm excited. And oh, by the way, here's a 65-page routing guide. Can you tell me what this is all about? And going through it and having the expertise to say, did you read page 35? Did you read page 47? Here's the implications if you do or don't do these type of things. That's really where the expertise can come in as well.
And unfortunately, every retailer wants to do it differently.
Yeah.
They have different package requirements. They want the label not on the top of the box. They want it on the side of the box. And if you're not putting the label on the side of the box, it's $250 for that purchase order.
Yeah, they want it to be punitive. They want some pain points there. There's in my experience, literally there was a story where the label needed to be in the upper right-hand corner of the broad facing of the box, 2 inches down and 2 inches over. I mean, that's pretty detailed, and literally it was 3 inches down and a half inch over, and then there was chargebacks related to that. So even those little things could derail the excitement of product launch.
I remember one client said, "Hey, I'm super excited. I've got this purchase order," and I said, "Well, where's the routing guide?" They're like, "What?" There's a routing guide, And so, being able to utilize an expert that's been down this road before, and they know what questions to ask and how to guide you is important. But beyond that expertise of what they do with fulfillment, you would want to use a 3PL or a fulfillment company to help you save on your shipping costs. That is your biggest line item when it comes to fulfillment, to get it from here to there.
Yep.
Especially to consumers. You have a small fulfillment cost for processing the order. Then you have a larger, and it's typically 3 times larger in shipping the product.
Right.
So being able to utilize a provider that has negotiated rates and can provide some of that savings, or pass some of that savings on to you,
right,
is another way to save costs. And then they typically are able to help with packaging as well.
Yep.
And so overall, you have experts in knowing what to do and what questions to ask. You have systems that allow you to maintain your inventory, be able to get your products sold and orders fulfilled in an easy way. Today we have technology that allows us what I call a plug and play integration.
Right.
Before, we used to have to spend countless hours and a whole lot of money in mapping to a retailer or to a sales channel that may or may not be successful for the client. And so they don't as a startup want to spend a whole lot of money getting a sales channel developed and the integrations built, not knowing whether it is going to be a successful channel or not, and a long-term channel. And so today we have the ability to plug and play with several shopping carts, several retailers,
right,
that allow for clients to come in and out of sales channels in a much easier way. So systems are very important, and one of the bigger areas I think that you would want to rely on a fulfillment or a 3PL provider.
Right.
Along with the savings of shipping and packaging costs. So to me, at the end of the day, you can wrap this up into the reason for using a 3PL is virtually a savings of time, trouble, and money.
Yeah, that's a good summary. I've always said that there's a tipping point in people's business, right? And that tipping point is, do you want to work on your business or in your business? And working in your business is what the 3PL can take over. They'll handle that. And your excitement and your spirit and telling the world about how awesome your ski gloves are, that's working on your business. So focus your efforts there, and having the 3PL accomplish all the things you're speaking about, it is really that tipping point. And if you can come to that realization and be able to let go of working in your business, I think that's where a lot of folks have success.
No one ever wants to get into business to be a shipping and packaging clerk.
Yeah.
It's one of the necessary requirements, but not the glamorous requirements. I think if they spend their time focusing on sales and leave the operations to experts, they'll be able to scale and build their business much quicker.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, good. I think we've learned quite a bit today related to, I think it's perfect, the time, the trouble, and the money piece. Before we wrap up on money, do you have any other last comments that you would want to talk to potential clients about using a 3PL as the financial aspect?
I think the last thing is really the golden nugget, and that's the scalability. Mm-hmm. If you find success, your orders increase. If you find success, your inventory space increases, and being able to utilize a 3PL that is used to the rise and fall of inventory and order counts and being able to scale with you is very important. I think at the end of the day, everyone gets really excited about a big sell or a purchase order that may come from a retailer, and that's quickly dissolve to fear when you start thinking about, hey, I got to call friends and family, and as you said earlier, I got to order a bunch of pizzas to try and get these orders done. Yeah. And oh yeah, by the way, there's a routing guide that I got to learn about. So, the scale and being able to deal with the high volumes and a quickly growing business is important and exciting, but to involve experts in being able to walk hand in hand with you along that journey is important and something that I think you can find here in Colorado, and they can do a great job for you.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, I really appreciate all your insight today. Coming out, it's been terrific. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, for the audience, thank you for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate Network. Again, this is the supply chain and logistics, the Storytellers, and I think we had a phenomenal storyteller today talking about the benefits of going with a 3PL. So again, thank you, Cap Logistics. You can visit them at caplogistics.com. Thanks again, Tyler.
Have a great day.
Okay, see ya.
Thank you.